Welcome into your PFF Draft Recap, powered by PFF Edge and Elite. Today it's all about the Tampa Bay Bucs, Sam, and they moved around in the first round. They started at number 7 overall. They moved down to number 12, pick up Vita Vea out of Washington, and I think this big monster that they're adding, you add him to Jason Pierre-Paul and some of the other moves they've made this offseason, Vinny Curry coming in, maybe the most improved defensive line in the NFL now in Tampa Bay.
It's definitely a much better looking defensive line than it's ever been there before. It's usually been Gerald McCoy and a collection of bodies. Now it actually looks like some legitimate supporting cast members to that line. The question with Vea, though, is he ever going to be worth that high a draft pick? This is a run-stuffing monster, but it's going to come down to what kind of impact he can make as a pass rusher at the next level to determine whether it was worth that high a draft pick.
Yeah, so the thing about him compared to, say, his, a former Washington player like Danny Shelton, who also went in the first round, Shelton's become a really good, pretty good run defender, not a good pass rusher, and a guy, when you look back, you don't want that in a first-round nose tackle. You don't want to spend first-round draft capital on a guy that's just good against the run. But the reason why we put Vea in the first round is because he has been productive as a pass rusher. I still think there are some questions as to how good he'll be at the next level, but let's just take a look at him against the rest of the talent in the nation. Maurice Hurst was number 1 in everything, pretty much, but number 1 in pass rush productivity, the stud out of Michigan who fell because of the heart condition. But look at Vita Vea right there, number 3 in pass rush productivity. That 10.6 is an excellent number. By comparison, Shelton, when he was at Washington, was in the 7s, right? Low 7s compared to where Vea is. And then the run stop percentage, those are those tackles in and around the line of scrimmage for an offensive loss, 12.1%. That was 4th. So Vea makes plays in both facets of the game.
He had a better pass rush productivity score than Hercules Mataafa, who was about 100 pounds lighter playing on the inside. So that's pretty impressive.
Yeah, it is. And I do think part of the question, though, is where those pressures have come from. I mean, Vea has incredible strength, which is nice, but he pushes the pocket, and he's pushing the pocket against college offensive linemen. And, he's 3rd in the draft class as far as bull rush pressure efficiency goes. You can find all those numbers in the PFF draft guide. It's all part of Edge and Elite. Can he bull rush NFL centers and guards, though? To me, that is the question with Vea and his ability to carry over that production at the next level.
Or more to the point, even if he can only do that, can he do anything else as well? Because I think there's a place for a guy who's a monstrous run stuffer and will be able to push the pocket through bull rushing as long as he can do that consistently. If you can get away with doing that, you don't need to be the guy that's providing the quick, immediate pressure. You just have to be collapsing the pocket slowly and making sure there's no easy escape route for the quarterback. What will really determine if he can be a kind of next level pass rusher is if there's anything else there as well. If he can win inside and outside of his man as well as just driving them back into the quarterback's lap.
Yeah, I would take him just bull rushing with Gerald McCoy being the up the field guy. You've got JPP on the edge, and there's a lot to like, I think, about that Tampa Bay defensive line. Now, Vea, multiple years of excellent production at Washington. Let's go to second rounder Ronald Jones, running back out of USC, a guy that the more you watched, I know the more you liked, and we teased putting him as a late first rounder at one point. The question mark being, what's he going to do in the pass game? Just hasn't done it a whole lot at USC, had a few too many drops. But as a runner, we got big play speed, we got tenacity after that, running through contact. Love the way Jones runs the ball.
He runs amazingly. His work as a ball carrier was genuinely fantastic. He's like the anti-Saquon Barkley in terms of he will get you everything that's there and blocked. Plus, he'll drag people for some more yardage as well. But he's not going to bail from a hole, even if it gets a little bit muddy. He's going to put his head down. He's going to run and try and drag you for as much yardage as he can get. And it's usually been pretty good. This past season, his 2017 grade was 93.1. That's the highest single season mark we've seen from any of the players in this draft class at any of their seasons in college. So higher than Royce Freeman back in 2015, higher than Rashad Penny this year, higher than Saquon Barkley in any season of his career. Ronald Jones this season was absolutely phenomenal. The big question mark is he just a two-down player? Because he really wasn't featured much in USC's offense. He had 40 targets over his entire college career. And the concerning thing is when you queue up all of those targets on tape, you do see a couple of ugly drops in there. So part of it is obviously it just wasn't a big part of that USC offense. But there is something there that even in those limited opportunities, he didn't exactly look like a natural receiver.
No, he didn't. But we'll see how they use him. I think he'll be a potential high volume runner though that they want. And my whole thing with Jones and this pass game with the Bucs, Jameis Winston's throwing the ball down the field. They've created this offense with Deshaun Jackson, Mike Evans, multiple tight ends who can get down the field. They want to create the big plays. They don't need to necessarily have Jones as that, guy that moves around the offense and creates mismatches. He might just be a check down guy, catch the check down, create a big play every now and again. That might be good enough in the pass game in this Bucs offense. Let's go to the rest of the second round because they had 3 second-round picks, and I really like what they did with these next two. MJ Stewart, the cornerback / maybe safety out of UNC, and then Carlton Davis, the cornerback out of Auburn. 2 players who are very different, but I just think they add great versatility to what the Bucs already had in the secondary on the back end.
Yeah, I like MJ Stewart. I don't think he is a true corner. I think he's a safety slot defender kind of hybrid. He reminded me a lot of Micah Hyde, formerly Green Bay Packers, now Buffalo Bills. Again, safety cornerback kind of hybrid. And today's NFL, that player is becoming more and more valuable. You call those guys, what is it, Steve? What do those guys do?
Movable chess piece?
No, not the movable chess piece. I was going with your tight end eraser.
Oh, the tight end erasers. You set me up. Yeah, that's not just a part of the lexicon just yet, but we're going to make it. We're going to have T-shirts and everything. He's a potential tight end eraser, definitely.
Steve is going to try and make that part of the lexicon. But anyway, I think that's what MJ Stewart can be. He can be this hybrid player that plays in the slot, tries to shut down those opposing tight ends, which are becoming more and more prevalent, more and more difficult to stop. And then Carlton Davis, I think, is your prototypical long press man cover corner, a guy that can just get in your grill, ride you all the way down the field with physicality. And the bottom line is, if he does get his hands on you, he makes it very difficult for you to catch the ball. Look at these numbers. These are his targets, receptions, and yardage allowed last season. There were a lot of games in there where he allowed a minimal amount of yardage. All of those numbers in red, under 20 receiving yards allowed, almost all of those under 10 receiving yards allowed. That was a guy who was legitimately shutting down his opposite receiver most of the time.
So now I think when you look at the Tampa Bay back seven, which has really struggled in recent years, much like the defensive line has been Gerald McCoy and a bunch of bodies, as you said, we now have MJ Stewart, the tight end eraser. We have Carlton Davis, the press man corner. You still have Brent Grimes over there. Still some hope for Vernon Hargraves to emerge. A couple athletic linebackers, Quan Alexander and Levante David. It's all about the pass game in today's NFL, and you added a couple guys that can just add different style players on that back end, which I love. Let's go to third rounder Alex Kappa, offensive tackle, Humboldt State. We didn't have the data on him, but we had him at the Senior Bowl. We graded every single snap at the Senior Bowl. You can find all that in the PFF draft guide. It's all part of PFF Edge and Elite. But Kappa came in as a guy from a very small school, had to elevate his game at Senior Bowl week against better competition.
Yeah, and I love that. Even if we don't get to some of these FCS guys during the regular season, we get to see them for a full week of practice at the Senior Bowl. That's why all the scouts, the NFL personnel guys are down in Mobile, Alabama as well, to watch how these guys do in a week of practice against elevated competition. And Alex Kappa did pretty well. You see from some of these reps here, he's able to come off the ball well, absolutely stone his man in one-on-one drills and do a perfectly good job. It wasn't always perfect. There were some ugly reps in there as well. We see him get absolutely eviscerated inside with a spin move here. Spins are tough for anybody, Steve. You got to give him a break there.
You still think spins are unstoppable? Is that still your thing?
I'm just saying, look, there's video evidence, Steve. The spin did him. I don't know what more you want.
0 for 1 on spins.
But again, we're back to being dominant against on the outside. Just tosses a guy to the ground, this time in a run drill. So I think overall he showed pretty well at the Senior Bowl, and in particular looked like a guy that was prepared to bring the nasty, Steve. That's what the offensive linemen like to see.
The linemen and the coaches, they do love to see that. So Kappa, another guy to develop. They had Ali Marpet a couple years ago, D3 player that's developed into a good player. So they have experience developing the small school offensive lineman. The other key player to highlight, I think, Jack Sitchie, the 6th-round linebacker out of Wisconsin, just hardly even saw the field over the last couple of years due to injuries. But when he was on the field, he was spectacular. In 2016, he was awesome in all facets, too. Flies to the ball in the run game, makes an impact as a blitzer. Pretty good feel for the game. And when you're talking about 6th-round picks, I keep coming back to, go get the guys that have been productive players, not necessarily the athletic freaks. I think he's well worth the risk in the 6th round.
Yeah, his entire career is 737 defensive snaps old. That is a minuscule amount. Linebackers are playing over 1,000 snaps per season at the NFL level, so we just haven't really seen him on the field. That being said, the last time we did, back in 2016, he was really good. His overall PFF grade was 89.0. That's the 7th highest single season grade we've seen from any linebacker in this draft class. He was a legitimately top-level linebacker, a guy that could play the run, playing coverage, was able to diagnose trick plays extremely well, reads the game incredibly. It's just a gamble whether you're going to be able to get a fully healthy Jack Sitchy back on the field. But if you are, you've got a fantastic player.
Yeah, when you add him to the mix, really like what the Bucs did at all levels of the defense. A very good draft where they moved down, added that extra draft capital, and for a team that's invested pretty heavily in that offense the last couple of years, good to see these defensive pieces added as well. There you have it. It is your Bucs draft recap. It's all been powered by PFF Edge and Elite.